With that, I'd like to go ahead and go on to comments from citizens on subject of choice. If you don't have a chance this time, we'll have a place at the end of the meeting to do that. And with that, what we ask is everyone to stay focused, because looks like we have a good crowd here tonight. And so if you would, first person come on up, and what we're going to do at the end, we'll receive the comments. I'll have our city manager make a comment on the things that we've done and the way we've stayed involved with this. So please, who wants to go first? Please state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Peter Perkins, and Mr. Peter Perkins, and I live in Turkey Creek Golf and Country Club community. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, I represent a lot of people who couldn't be here tonight because they have young children going to school tomorrow, because they have jobs, both husband and wife, to be able to afford the mortgage on their modest home in our community, and 1,240 households. Thank you. 1,240 households in our little community, right across the street from this new biomass plant. And the noise has been incredible during their startup. We're told that this is part of their startup operations, and perhaps this noise will be lessened once they get into operation. We have problems with that story, because we were told in a meeting with GREC, or American Renewables, early in their sales process several years ago, that they would be quiet and when they were asked about noise. So quiet that we wouldn't even know they were there. Having lived through that sales presentation and believed them, we have trouble with the idea of GREC monitoring its own noise levels. And yet the City of Gainesville and GRU seem to be willing to allow GREC to do their own noise monitoring. We would ask the City of Alachua to help us require an outside audit authority from the state. There's a little state roadside park down next to the plant across the street from us, or from the City of Alachua, or from, we don't care who, but we need someone besides GREC. It's a little like the fox guarding the hen house, to have GREC check its own noise levels. We feel that we're being delayed in any action by GREC's responses and the City of Gainesville and GRU's responses. They've been just, hold on, things will get better. Don't worry, we'll get it fixed. We don't believe that. We're having trouble with it. We have people that are suffering, not able to sleep at night until the latest breakdown, and the noises have been somewhat abated the last couple days, but it's still there. The pollution we're concerned about. We have particulate matter landing on our vehicles, a white, fine dust. It doesn't wash off easily with water. We don't know what it is. It's ash and what? We don't know. We're concerned about that. We're concerned about the health of our citizens that have breathing problems, because we read easily on the internet and other places that wood burning creates terribly noxious and poisonous and radioactive components. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Perkins. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Larry Nogle. My wife Helen Ann and I purchased a home in Turkey Creek in 2007. We were encouraged to move there by friends who lived there, telling us how quiet and serene it was, and it actually was. We love our house, or we loved our house, and we encouraged more friends to move down 2 doors down from us. So we've got an area out there that we were real proud of. My wife is diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and unfortunately she has cancer, of which she had the cancer removed in February, and she's still under chemo and radiation. She has to walk with a walker or a wheelchair, and she needs a rest. And so we really had it rough out there. A couple of years ago, we were told that a wood-burning biomass plant was proposed for the GRU Deerhaven property less than a mile from our Turkey Creek. Gainesville Renewable Energy Center, now called GREC, at an informational meeting at Turkey Creek Golf Club informed us of their plans. We were told by GREC panel that the emissions nor noise would be a problem. We were also told that the trucks wouldn't be a problem and other things, but there are a lot of people who were worried about a lot of things, but I can tell noise. I can't tell emissions. I need expert help, and the highway people can do the trucks and so on. So what we have is about mid-August of this year, sound like jet planes taking off outside my bedroom window. We call the City of Alachua Police.
That's right.
Excuse me. We called the City of Alachua Police, and they told us that that was in the City of Gainesville, and they couldn't do anything about it. But they did get me with Dispatch Central, which is something they do with 911. I don't know. I'm not into that. But they transferred me to the Gainesville Police Department. Gainesville Police Department transferred me to GRU at Deerhaven. The night manager, and this was all at 1:30 till about 3 o'clock in the morning, on I think the 20th or 21st of August. Once this took place, I was told that the plant manager said that there was nothing they could do about it, that it was GREC's noise and not their noise. So the GRU people were a little bit upset themselves. They also said that a Mr. Steve Marsh, who was evidently the plant manager for GREC, would be calling me. I've never heard anything from Mr. Marsh. Later, Ms. Karen Heiler called and said they were conducting tests and that our concerns were their concerns. Well, for over 4 weeks, they haven't done anything about it. I have requested many times that they not test this equipment at night, do it during the daytime. It's fell on deaf ears. The only thing, we received a letter from, or I received a letter from a Mr. Morales, the CEO and Chief Financial Officer of GREC, that offered us no solutions to our problems. Those of us in Turkey Creek and the Hague area have had more than our share of stress and suffering due to the noise night after night. What I would ask from you as citizens of Alachua, that we have a noise ordinance drafted that would take care of something like this. As I understand, we have a nuisance ordinance, but not an ordinance. I think that's the way they explained it. But I would ask that they draft a restricted noise ordinance to protect the citizens from ever being run out of our own homes in order to appease this GREC outfit. Thank you for your time, and I hope we can stand together in rectifying this situation.
Thank you, Mr. Noble. Would anyone else like to come up and speak?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Janie Hendricks. I live in Turkey Creek. I've lived there for about 8 years. I came up from South Florida and bought into Turkey Creek not for the golf, but for the green space and the peace and tranquility. And I have been disturbed by the noise last week all day and into the night on the 17th, all day and into the night on the 18th, all day and into the night on the 19th. I actually drove over there at 5:30 in the morning on the 19th to confirm that the noise was coming from the GREC plant. And so it was. I filed a complaint with the Gainesville City Police and got an incident report number and followed that as far as it went, although it didn't go very far because they said they didn't have sound meters and they didn't know, and so they kind of blew me off. So I would certainly, as a citizen of Alachua, like you to do whatever you can to pressure the city of Gainesville to make this stop, to make it go away if at all possible. Research shows that these kinds of facilities not only release toxins into the air by burning wood, but the noise is very much an issue, and that's what you're hearing from us here today is we can't concentrate. I work from home, and this time of year my doors and windows are closed, and I hear this droning and rumbling, and it's very distracting, and I can't get my work done. So if I can't get my work done, it's interfering with my income. And I agree with the comment that was made that we would like you to also pressure GRU to do get an independent audio or sound person there to do the evaluations rather than having GREC do it itself. From the entrance of Turkey Creek to the entrance of the GREC facility, it's 7/10 of a mile. From my driveway to the entrance of GREC, it's 1.2 miles. This is way too close. Also, research shows that these facilities should not be anywhere near residential areas. So if this was put where it should not have been, it needs to be undone, and we need to have you as our champions do whatever you can to keep up this pressure, and please enact a noise ordinance. I understand that the property is in Gainesville, and for jurisdictional enforcement purposes, it has to be the Gainesville City Police Department. I get all that. But if Alachua had a noise ordinance as well, it may or may not help with this particular issue, but with commercial areas all up and down 441 and existing residential areas, we would hope that having a noise ordinance in place would help to get those issues under control before they become a problem. So please very much consider enacting a very strong noise ordinance. Thank you for your hard work.
Good evening, everyone. I am Ernesto Martinez. I am a very concerned citizen and a resident and a ratepayer of GRU. This particular issue should really be dealt with seriously and aggressively. For your information and for the record, noise torture has been ruled worse than waterboarding. It has been outlawed by the United Nations. They prohibit using this at Guantanamo Bay. This issue of air pollution, these people had the audacity to proclaim to all of us that the air was actually going to be cleaner when this machine came into being. Now you tell me if ashy, white, slimy residue is an improvement, and if you think that's an improvement, there's a bridge we might want to talk about. Lastly, and equally as important, I'm sure all of you have seen that monstrous wood pile. That is ripe for spontaneous combustion. That is a disastrous inferno just waiting to happen. And thank you for allowing me to have these few words with you this evening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Harold Sabe. I also live in Alachua County. Since this is a cross-border issue, I also live in Gainesville. Pleased to be here to be able to speak this evening. And for the record, there is a way to opt out of this biomass plant and still get cheap energy. GRU has assured us that the biomass plant will burn natural gas as a fuel. This assertion was made in 2008 by Mr. Ed Regan at the time. If there are design changes that make it more expensive to do that now, it's still less expensive than putting up with a biomass plant, as it is too close to your Turkey Creek complainants and other people in Hague. So I encourage you, there's a way to have it both ways. You can renew your energy contract that comes up in 2 years if it's converted to natural gas, and the complaints will go away. Finally, the one thing I'm concerned with is that on Google Map, you will see there's a lot of ash fallout that could get into the University of Florida Holstein project. They got 850 cattle out there grazing on grass that has this toxic ash falling on it. Also, I see on Google Earth there's lots of farming communities within this area that are susceptible to the same types of pollution and fallout. We don't know how much of this has got cesium-137 attached to it or not, but we will have instruments to measure all this in the future, and we'll report back to this Honorable Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mac, are you the official photographer? Mr. McKeachin? Mr. McKeachin?
Kitchen, Mr. Mayor.
Are you the official photographer?
No, I'm not official.
All right. All right.
Thank you, though. I'm Mac McKeachin and a former resident of Alachua. A lot of fond memories of it. I've followed this biomass issue from the for a couple of years. I never thought about the fact that they would have noise problems. I started doing some research on it, and what shocked me was I discovered that this is not a unique situation, that every biomass plant in the country has had noise problems. The salvation of some of them has been like the one in Austin that's over 100 miles away from any populated areas, so there's nobody complaining. But there's been a number of lawsuits. Some of them have been won. This is not an uncommon situation. Every one of them has this problem. One of the plants up north built a 20-foot berm around their plant trying to alleviate the noise problems. And we've been told that, I don't know why we weren't told about this situation a long time ago. I was really surprised to see. But my main point is that this is not unique to the plant here that GREC has. It's unique to all of these plants. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mac.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Lynn Kuyas, and I'm an Oaks-A-Hague resident for 36 years. Sorry. My name is Lynn Kuyas. I want you to hear this. I hope to God hear it. Can you hear that? You can't hear it? Damn it. I went out Saturday night at 1 a.m. Crickets. And the biomass was down. And this is what I heard. And this is what I've heard for 36 years. Peace and quiet. And crickets. When this thing runs, it sounds like jet engines. And you can hear a constant humming. And we just found out from the city GRU spokesman standing up saying that this is going to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I can't believe there's no statute of limitations on the time that they're going to operate. Not only are we being forced to digest the truck traffic of one new truck every 7 minutes, 150 trucks a day, we're going to deal with the ash that I have. My neighbor came over and mowed my lawn, and as I'm speaking to her, snow is falling on her clothing. And I'm looking at her, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and it is the wood ash burning from this biomass. So not only do we have a haze all over Oaks-A-Hague right now, but the wood ash is constantly falling. So you're talking 30 years, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Our lungs, the American Lung Association has already said anybody within a 200-mile radius is going to have lung problems. We're within 2. You've got the truck traffic, the diesel fuel, the ash, the lungs, and the noise. And there's no way that you can let them operate 24/7. It's a disaster. I don't understand how this thing even got approved. I would have thought something this big would have been put on the ballot so everybody could have been involved. But that's not the way it happened. And now we're here. I know that the city of Alachua has a lot of ordinances and there's no one to enforce them. And I'm begging you on behalf of all the people that came here tonight, if we do enact an ordinance, we have someone that's going to enforce it. Because I can tell you for a fact, I've called the City of Alachua Police Department about fireworks at 4:57 a.m. And they go, well, we don't have a noise ordinance. And yet when you talk to the chief, he says, yes, we do. So it's conflicting. People don't know if we do or we don't. They don't know who to enforce it with. And that's what I'm begging you is to please, if you do go as far as enacting an ordinance, get someone that is going to enforce it. And I really do beg that you would limit their hours of operation. I think the whole thing has been a disaster. for Hague, because you already know how I feel about what happened with the pipeline. But this sound and this ash, this is a disaster for the city and all the citizens. Thank you very kindly.
Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Tamara Robbins. I'm listening to the speakers here this evening, and the questions that come to my mind are, what exactly is GREC burning? Are they burning only lumber? Are they burning treated lumber? Are they burning anything else besides what we would consider clean wood, or is it treated lumber? That's one question. And if I were you, actually, I'm going to say I'm me. I'm going to ask you that you take a more aggressive, proactive approach to this, and rather than trying to pressure Gainesville and GREC to do something about this, that you direct staff to do research and find professionals that can do some studies and provide this commission and this community information about what is being what they're burning, what is the effects of the ash that's coming out, what is coming out of the stacks, what are the potential for additional scrubbers, that we look into our own, gathering our own information about how do you want to protect the citizens of this community, and if necessary, you put Gainesville and GREC on notice that you're going to file legal action on them unless they step up and protect the citizens of this community. Because I've watched this in the news for, however, a couple of years, and what I've seen is that Gainesville Commission is, I don't see that they're going to do anything to stop this, and I don't think GREC is going to offer or going to do anything to protect this community. They do exactly what they want. They've done exactly what they have wanted to do, and now the residents of Turkey Creek and anybody in this community, and it's not just the people right next door, it is the Oaks of Hague, it's everybody here, it's you. This is long past due. We should have been proactive on this a year and a half ago and looked out as to what was the potential impact of this facility on the residents of this community, and got on board with making sure not only do we have a noise ordinance, is that we are looking out for the toxins in the air and everything else. And if we have to file a lawsuit against and step up, it's time that we took some, potentially take some legal action. But get some information and do our own studies and don't depend on somebody else to do it for us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Frank Nasco. I'm a general contractor and resident of Turkey Creek for quite a long time. What I'd like to point out to you that nobody's mentioned is property values. We're a small town here. My family has been involved in this town since the early 70s when we bought a cattle ranch. And it's the other part of the family. It's not the Nascos, it's the Smiths. But you know, I'm looking at this, and because I'm a general contractor, I'm involved in a lot of things and I get a lot of information sent to me. And where the Chinese drywall was sold to people, the property values are now 25 cents on a dollar. And that's on the tax rolls. So what you're looking at Turkey Creek and the surrounding Hague thing, if all this pollution, I think Turkey Creek is on the, was it leeward side or something, the wind is coming across. We're not going to probably get the ash as bad, but the Hague residents and the other people around there, they're going to get this, and it's going to depreciate all our tax base. And, you know, we don't have that much of a tax base. And so I think you need to look at this from a financial thing that people, I'm a GC and a mechanical. I've worked at Hutchinson Island, Turkey Point, and I've built part of the mechanicals of a nuclear power plant. We don't build plants like that. We actually have buildings that the equipment sits in. Turbines sitting out in a metal shell, in a metal framework, cannot be silenced. I met with a sound engineer today, and he pulled out his decibel meter, and he said, Frank, he says, if I have a building, we can put in counter-reacting noise. We actually record the noise, and then we play it back. And we can make it so we can talk normal in that plant. I says, well, the problem is there's no walls. I mean, it's a cheap-ass building. This is called, you watch TV shows called Flip This House. This is Flip the Plant. And that's all this guy's in business. Gordon has got a reputation around this country of starting these projects, and he wants to dump this thing off to some innocent investors. And he doesn't care what happens to Turkey Creek or the city of Alachua. Gainesville's a bunch of patsies. I was sitting in an engineering, I have to take licensing classes, and the guy sitting next to me says, "Wow, you guys sure fell for it." And I go, "What would you say that about?" He says, "You bought that stupid power plant." I said, "Where are you from?" He says, "I'm from JEA. That's Jacksonville Electrical Authority." This guy tried to sell it to everybody. And we had Mayor Hanrahan, who's written articles about everybody approved it. You guys did, but they had a bunch of people on their side. Thank you so much, but consider the tax base. I bet you could lose $1 billion worth of taxable revenue.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Stan Richardson. I'm a lifelong citizen of Alachua. I came here this evening just to attend the meeting. On my way, some citizens stopped me. We were engaged in a conversation, and I told them where I was going, and they're new to the area. So, long story short, they asked me to let you know that they're concerned about their road. It is 144th Street, just one block past 144 Place. That's right down here, leaving in front of the mayor's house, all the way down before the road turns into 143rd Place. There's a problem with the road. There's runoff. When it rains, there's just about a foot of mud that settles in the road, and they just asked me to relay that to the commission to see if you can come out and do something. Or there were some folks out there a while back, but they really didn't do much to the road. It's really bad. My sympathy, my heart goes out to the folks in Turkey Creek. That would run me crazy. I cannot stand noise at all. That would just drive me up the wall. I remember when these folks with the biomass plant came before this commission. Some of you were on this commission, some of you were not, and we embraced it with open arms. And as a citizen here, I just implore you that this is a good life community. And we should be careful and do every little bit of research, as these folks stated, before we allow industry of any kind to come into our community and to see, what kind of adverse effects it would have on the citizens here. So this came before the Rural Concerns Board last Tuesday. I think the chair brought it to our attention, and from what I understand, there is absolutely nothing you can do about this noise. From the information I got, that this noise is there and it's there to stay. Besides doing some really expensive changes, so I would hope that you would do everything in your power to rectify this problem for the citizens of Turkey Creek and for all the citizens of Alachua. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Adele Franson. I am a resident of Gainesville, but more so, I am a concerned citizen, and whether that's of a neighboring city or our national government. I'm very disturbed by a number of factors, and I think one of them is a very general sense that our government is not working for us, locally or globally. I feel as though this situation isn't any different from big tobacco, DDT. It seems as though it takes years before the citizens' situation is even heard, much less addressed. And this has happened in our city of Gainesville. In fact, very intelligent, concerned, articulate, knowledgeable citizens have been trying to perform their civic duty for a long time, but have been very much blocked in doing that, and not given the correct information or given the wrong information. There's something wrong with that process when the citizens are seen as the enemy, and we choose you persons because we need representation. But I really have a very much of a question of where are our representatives when we need them. And one particular personal area that bothers me is this man who spoke about his wife, and he's very concerned about her, elderly people and people with physical problems and now having cancer. If this was Rick Scott's wife, if this was a shoe of a corporate CEO, you better believe that there possibly would be more attention given than a person from Turkey Creek who's just trying to have a peaceful life. I think there are many problems. There's the economic problem, there's the infrastructure problem, there's the pollution problems, multiple problems affecting multiple citizens. And I just hope that we do have some representatives that are really going to do their job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Martinez, and I'm a citizen resident of Gainesville, Florida. And I just wanted to thank you all for taking the time to listen to the citizens today. And as you know, noise pollution is a public health threat. And as a registered nurse, we all know that prevention is far less expensive than intervention. And I trust that you all will do the prevention that you need to do to protect your residents. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd like to go ahead and...
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'd like to go ahead and waive our rules so we can discuss this issue so commissioners can respond that want to.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I want to set the record straight for a quick second. Before I was on this commission, I know the Biomass group, GREC, came, I think it was American Renewable, came to the City Commission for a letter of support, and they did not get that. So this City of Alachua, this City Commission did not embrace or support GREC. This plant's not in our jurisdiction, but it seems to be our problem. I spoke with a resident earlier today. He talked about ash falling on his vehicle, talked about a fruity, rotten smell, talked about a jet engine. I don't live out that way, but I trust the man. He's a friend. He's a resident. We have a lot of friends out there in Turkey Creek, and I'm speaking as commissioners that we represent not just Turkey Creek, but you go down to Staghorn and elsewhere. There's a lot of people in the Hague area as well. Our citizens aren't asking for anything special. They're just asking to live their life as they did before this plant fired up and started testing. Staff has already been moving and making contact and trying to find out information. Didn't just happen today. This has been going on for several weeks now. The presentation a gentleman spoke of several years ago, before I was on this commission, I was at that meeting, and I remember noise had nothing to do with it. Rotting, fruity smell had nothing to do with it. The only issue was the truck traffic, and then maybe you might see their building or something like that. But you wouldn't have to worry about noise. That wasn't an issue, but that seems to be wrong. Our citizens aren't happy. I can tell you as a commissioner, I'm not happy, and we're going to do everything possible to take care of this situation as soon as we can. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I actually have a motion I want to make, but we're going to have further discussion before I make a motion.
Please, further discussion.
Yeah, I also attended that meeting at Turkey Creek several years ago, and actually got up at the meeting and challenged the people representing GREC that down south we don't like carpetbaggers, and that's the feeling I had, that they was coming in to make a quick buck and leave, and they assured us no, that was not it. Now they're trying to sell it. The other thing is I met with 3 representatives of GREC shortly after that meeting for about 15 minutes and discussed with them, and I says, you know, if you're going to be doing things out here, even though we're not in the city of Gainesville, says the one thing you can alleviate some of the problems is to be a good neighbor, and when things start happening to kick the plant off, if there's anything that's going to be like noise, particulates, send a memo out to all the area residents saying this is temporary, blah, blah, blah. At least do that. And I don't think that's going to fix all the problem, but they sent nothing. So I think in good faith they have not, based on what they said at that meeting, speaking with me personally, and this was before I was a commissioner also, that they did not honor their commitment that they said in that meeting to over 300 people. And there's people from Brook Point, there's people from Staghorn, there's people from Turkey Creek, there's people from the mobile home community across the street, there's people from the city of Hague that was at that meeting. So it's not strictly, I know this is coming more of a Turkey Creek problem, but we have very fine, and plus the unincorporated area of Alachua County that also is affected by that. Some houses are live close to that or in the unincorporated Alachua County. So anyhow, once the discussion is over, I do have a motion I'd like to place on the floor, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Brown, do you have anything to say?
I suppose I'm the new kid on the block because I missed a lot of the discussion prior to this, but I'd just like to say to all of you that are here, thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts. Thank you for being here and standing up for what you want in your community. I live in Alachua as well, and certainly if I lived in Turkey Creek, I would be sitting out there also sharing the same thoughts. So I would admonish our commission to look into it, to secure any information, do some research, and find out just what's going on so we can move forward and help the citizens of Turkey Creek and all of the citizens of Alachua.
Mr. Hardacre.
I would also like to thank our citizens for coming here tonight. I did sit on this commission when GREC come to us. We did not offer any support to them at that time. We'd never heard anything about noise issues. We realized that there would possibly be a truck issue, and we had kind of set up a process that if this happened, that we would work with them and get together and try to resolve any of the issues with the truck noise and leaving junk on our roads and that from the trucks. We did fight a big issue, though. They wanted to use 1.4 million gallons of our drinking water a day, and we aggressively went before the Swanee River Water Management District, and through their support, GREC was required to not only build a line for us out to that plant, but also use our reworked water, we call it gray water, instead of using our drinking water to supply their water needs on that plant. As far as the emission part of it goes, I remember we were being told that because they wanted to get the permits and that they actually went and redid their coal-fired plant a little bit, and we were told that actually was helping cut down on the emissions. We don't have any proof of that, but that's something we might also look at. I know that we had a noise issue here when they wanted to get a little plant right downtown set up, and I remember that we either had a study done or it was I'm not sure if it was a noise study or what possibly could happen, but the city actually went out and spent money for that. So that might be a possibility that we can look at that possibly could help in that. But I want to do whatever we can to stop this noise and ash issue. I wish that plant would have been in our city. It might have been easier for us to deal with it, but that's not the case. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Once again, thank you all for being here tonight. What was said in that meeting, in the original meeting, was when they came and asked us, is to support that program, and we told them if it's so good, let it stand on its own merits. Well, it never got to a vote. They withdrew the request for their support, and knowing that we were not going to do it. They didn't want, that was the second time they were taking it to the Public Service Commission, so they didn't want a no vote for that. And so what we're going to do is try and do everything we can as a city for our citizens. This is a tough tough situation that everyone is in. And it's not just the city of Alachua or Gainesville, it's the whole surrounding area there. With that, what was your motion going to be, Mr. Wilford?
It won't solve everything. It's a rather long motion, Mayor. It's just more or less an advocacy type thing, so
Okay.
bear with me.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, I motion that the city manager draft a letter for the mayor's signature and address it to the Gainesville City Commission with copies forwarded to the Alachua County Board of County Commissioners, management of the Gainesville Renewable Energy Center Biomass Plant, Florida State Senator Bradley, Florida State Representatives Perry, Porter, and Watson, United States Senators Nelson and Rubio, the United States House Representative members Brown and Yoho, stating that the noise pollution and other pollution generated by the Gainesville Renewable Energy Center Biomass Plant is, one, causing an especially adverse environmental impact on the residents of the Brook Point subdivision, Staghorn subdivision, Turkey Creek subdivision, mobile home community located across the road from the Turkey Creek subdivision on Florida State Highway 441, town of Hague, and unincorporated sections of Alachua County in close proximity to Florida State Highway 441 near the Gainesville Renewable Energy Center Biomass Plant. And two, the noise pollution and other pollution generated by the Gainesville Renewable Energy Center Biomass Plant, if not ameliorated, could have a serious negative impact on the property values of residents who are being adversely affected by said pollution, resulting in a reduction in critical revenue producing property taxes collected by the city of Alachua and Alachua County.
That was a motion.
I'll second that motion for discussion.
Commissioners, any comment on the motion? That's one of the longest I've ever heard, but a good one. Any comment?
One other comment is, I did not address the health issues. I drafted this to initiate. I don't think we have much choice to try to close down that plant now, but we need to get all of our representatives notified, make sure that we have said we're representing not only Turkey Creek, but those 5 areas. I think it's very important to address the noise and the other pollution, the particulates, and get that on record. And that is, when I say other pollution items, that is health issues. I said we need to address those other issues. So that's my motion, and that's before the commission.
Thank you. I'd like to go ahead and open up the floor for comments on the motion on the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike McKitchen again, and I'm still not official. Thank you for the motion, Commissioner. I think it's a good start. But I'm like you. I'm concerned it's not the whole.
We'd like you to speak into the mic, Mac, and please let's do the motion on the floor.
Okay, the motion on the floor is designed to try to help the situation. In that respect, what I'm going to suggest to you is that it's a good start, but I don't believe that there's anything that any government can do around here now. It's like you said that doubted they could shut this thing down, but you can't. It's nothing but money. It's their money. It's the investors that are going to lose, not the people. We don't have any money invested in that thing. But when your attorney looks into this, I think they'll find, as I said before, that this is not a unique situation. And you're going to have to wind up with litigation. You're going to have to file a lawsuit and ask for an injunction, and ask the injunction to stop, to prevent them from coming online making this noise. They can't do it. None of the other units around the country have been able to do that, and the only reason they've got away with it is because they're so far away from any population. The EPA recommends noise levels.
Mac, can I please ask you to stay to the motion on the floor, please?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I would just like you to add to your motion, I have in my possession their application that they submitted to get their permits. And in Chapter 6, I think it's 6.7, it discusses noise. And they're not in compliance with their own permit. So I will, if you'll give me where you want the email, it's a big email. I'll have to probably send it in 5 or 6 pieces. But you can have the city attorney look over this document. But I was pointed out from an EPA engineer where to look. And I was going to bring you copies tonight, and it's so big I couldn't. I mean, but if you look at, it's in chapter 6.7, something like that. It talks about we will not exceed a certain decibel level. And I'll tell you what, it's very explicit, and I think it's where you can go after them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone would like to speak to the motion on the floor?
Harold Say, speaking to the motion on the floor. The motion, amending the motion to include alternative fuel that already exists in the plant in order to start up the wood-burning process, like a butane lighter lights a cigarette, is the natural gas that's already there. And GRU says that this plant will burn natural gas. So the amendment, in my opinion, should include a mandate to move to alternative energy in the form of natural gas to completely mitigate all the complaints. And that will do it. Secondly, the noise issue needs to be reworked. I also read the chapter about noise, and my analysis says they quit analyzing the decibels at 8,000 cycles per second. Now that's legally deaf. The normal hearing range is up to 20,000 cycles per second for anybody who's an audiophile. And so they quit analyzing it and reported that most of the noise was coming from the cooling towers at 111 dBA per tower. That's 444, if my math is right. And there's this big red ring around the cooling towers. That's not to say that there aren't other noises coming from different places. However, the issue is to add in a rework of the noise that would challenge the existing document that truncates the dBA noise at 8,000 cycles per second, assuming that's all the noise there is, and it shuts off. There's probably another jet engine noise higher in the frequency that they have ignored for one reason or another that makes it sound like a jet engine in the area of 15,000 cycles per second. So what they missed is the second hump, the one hump up to 8,000, and then they truncated it and just forgot about everything else up to 20,000 cycles per second.
All right. What we're trying to do here is, there's a motion on the floor, and it's a start for us, is what it is, and we're trying to get started here. So let us, we want to let you speak to the motion on the floor, but the motion is a good start for us here in the city of Alachua, so we can maybe move on from there.
Mine is just a point of clarification on Mr. Wolford's, its Progress Mobile Home Park is the park that you were talking about. We've got 2 other areas. Whitney Mobile Home Parks have also put complaints in, and also Turkey Creek Forest.
Right.
It's an elderly community. They put complaints in. So those should be included in that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just have one point, Mr. Wilford, Commissioner. Thank you for that. I think you should explicitly mention the health issue in writing the motion. I think you should put it in there instead of other issues. Mention the health issue. And forgive me, Commissioners, if I was in error about your support of the biomass plant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tamara Robbins, thank you, Commissioner Wilford, for a start on a motion. However, I don't understand what exactly you're asking the representatives to do. What I'm hearing is that we're notifying them of a problem that is in our community and in our region. And I don't hear directly what it is we're asking them to do. But what I would like to ask that you include in the motion is that that the City of Alachua schedules a workshop. There's plenty of people in this community who have done extensive research on GREC and on this whole situation, have been following it for years. I think it would be in everyone's best interest to schedule a workshop at a time when it is most convenient for those who work, which would mean an evening workshop, and gather around and gather information and start really hearing and look at a more proactive approach. I mean, I appreciate your motion, but all I do is see that you're notifying representatives who I don't see that there's really anything that they can do about this. And if they are in violation of their own agreement, then that's where we need to start, is where are they in violation, and what options do we have to force the hand and protect the citizens of this community. But a workshop would be a good start, or an additional place to go to continue the momentum and gathering information and keep on it, because a start is great, but we got to keep going because they're way ahead of the game. The horse is out of the barn. So thanks.
Thank you.
Janie Hendricks, Turkey Creek. I'd like to add on to that. I think it's a great idea, and if it could be folded into the motion somehow, because we at Turkey Creek, I'm on the board of the Master Owners Association, and we had decided at our meeting last week to have such a workshop. But if we could do it in conjunction with the city, then certainly finding a venue would be very helpful. We've been searching now for a venue. We wanted to have a workshop within the next 2 weeks or so. But yes, if we could all work together and have one workshop and perhaps set up a subcommittee with the city, I would certainly volunteer to serve on that. Thank you.
Yes, Debbie Martinez. Commissioner Wolford, through the mayor, did the procedure correctly. I do appreciate how eloquently Commissioner Wolford outlined the problem and the fact that all our elected officials do need to be notified. However, we're on a very short timeline. Within the next 2 to 4 weeks, they will be passing Fagan Construction over to GREC. So we only have a short timeline, and there is some action that you can take, and it's a very simple action. What you can do is direct your attorney to file a common nuisance lawsuit for annoying noise coming from the GREC biomass plant, because the noise pollution is preventing residents from sleeping, which is a public health threat. So this is a simple action, and that can slow things down while you get your workshop together and notify all the proper elected officials. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Ernesto Martinez once again. To the motion, I urge you to change the language to read noise torture, which is cruel and unusual punishment, and it will kill you. And if I could ever so briefly recognize Miss Susan Baird, County Commissioner from Alachua County, is in attendance here tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak to the motion on the floor?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
if I could, because there's a lot of information being brought up that I love the motion. I love the idea of where we need to get this letter to, but I would like to give staff, our city manager, our city attorney, the latitude to come up with a letter, to draft a letter that includes that information, but gives them the ability to do it without that specific motion. It sounded like the letter itself. And I want to make sure we have it right and get some legal opinion on what we need to do and what's effective and what we're able to do. If that's just kind of a recommendation.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I think it's almost impossible. I appreciate the comments. I was on the motion on the floor to, yeah, maybe our representatives won't do anything, but if we get something out, we got one county commissioner here, so she's already got it firsthand knowledge that, this affects everybody in Alachua County. So I think notifying our elected representatives, both at the local level and the national level, gets it out. I have no problems with, I want the motion to stand the way it is. But I think if, Madam City Manager, Madam City Attorney, if you want to add those other things, if it's appropriate to do, then it'll be for the mayor's signature. I have no problems with that whatsoever. But I think the motion was to, and I'm not going to get into, noise torture. I realize that might be a good point, but we need to be a little more, to have more time to get eloquent in explaining that, whereas this motion is more to say we advocate for our citizens, not only the citizens of Alachua, but also the surrounding communities. And that's what my motion was all about, to say we do stand strong, that we will advocate. This is not going to go away. We will continue to advocate, and any action that we can take through our own processes If it involves legal action, then we certainly going to take a look at that. But for tonight, this motion, and obviously I wrote this, I didn't state this verbatim, I did write it this afternoon. I sort of anticipated, since I did go to for the record, I did go to the City of Gainesville's City Commission meeting, and I spoke, and I always add a disclaimer, I'm not speaking for the City Commission of the City of Alachua, I'm speaking as a resident of Turkey Creek. So I was at that meeting, heard a lot of, very, very powerful statements made, some of them repeated tonight, and I appreciate the citizens being here again tonight. I encouraged them at the Turkey Creek Master Owned Association to be here, and they were here, and there's a lot of them out there, but I think, we're representing those other communities. But I would like my motion to stand the way it is, and I do not want to amend the motion. I do appreciate the input, and I think we do need to address those issues that you talked about, whether it's a legal issue, but at the same time, I just wanted to get this going there, because we need to get a letter out quick, in my humble opinion.
Mr. Mayor, quickly, if I could just say it, I want to make sure this letter, this letter isn't the only thing the City of Alachua is going to do. I mean, this, you said, it's a starting point, but I plan on this week being in contact with some officials in Gainesville and GREC and making sure they know it does matter when you talk to your Senator Rubio or your state senator. That actually does matter. That does make a difference, and that's why you're here tonight talking to us, and we're going to go out and talk to them. And so this letter is a great starting point, but we're going to do some other things as well. And thank you, and thank staff for their time already on some of this stuff.
And roll call vote. Commissioner McCarty.
Aye.
Commissioner Hardacre.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilford.
Aye.
Vice Mayor.
Aye.
And Chair votes aye. Quite a few of the commissioners have. I actually watched the citizens' comments on live on Gainesville, that meeting. Been out to Turkey Creek 6 or 7 times, and I apologize. The noise was not there when I went out there. I rode all through Turkey Creek. I rode right up to the gate where the guard is, and he wouldn't let me go past there, of course. But I will tell you that we are in contact. I have talked to city commissioners in Gainesville and Alachua County commissioners. I have gotten all the emails. You've CC'd me all. I've been on that email list, so I get all those emails. So I understand what you're going through and the questions you've asked. So like I said, this is a good starting point, and we want feedback from them right away. And we have some good representatives, and I feel like we will get that.
Mr. Mayor, real quick, the bit about the workshop, I don't think that's a bad idea. I think we want to get this letter out first. Once we get the letter out and get it in process, then a workshop, I think, certainly would be in order down the road. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I
Go
just
ahead.
ask a question? I want to understand if I know Mr. Wolford will give me a copy of what
You didn't write that on
the motion was. I did not write all that down. If the city attorney and I feel that there's additional information that needs to be included in that letter, is that appropriate for your signature, or is it exactly how the motion
If you need that
was?
from the motioner, I'm fine with that. If the rest of the commission,
Yes.
yes.
And we'll certainly read it before you send it out.
I know Madam Attorney will keep us out of trouble.
With that, we're going to end the citizens' comment and move on to public hearings and ordinances. And I'm going to give you the same invite that I've given everyone else. If you'd like to stay for the rest of the meeting, we're more than welcome to stay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Can we take a few minutes?
No. All right, go ahead. We'll take a little bit of a couple-minute recess right here so everyone can.
Thank you. I've been holding an hour.
Yeah.
Young man. Okay. Somebody needs to teach you.